All right, so are you ready for this? Because today, we're tackling the age-old question. How do you spot a true visionary,
Yeah.
in a sea of con artists? And today we're going to be looking at Sydney Sweeney,
Oh, yeah.
actress, entrepreneur, and let's face it, a magnet for controversy.
Yeah, she's a fascinating case study, isn't she? Sydney Sweeney's career. I mean, it's like a crash course in navigating modern fame, you know? I mean, she's young, she's gorgeous, she's making power moves in Hollywood, but is it all just a carefully crafted facade?
Yeah, and to figure that out, we've got to examine everything from that whole MAGA hat party that sent the internet into a frenzy
Yeah.
to, her multi-million-dollar real estate deals and her very, very vocal opinions on Hollywood feminism.
Right.
We've even got intel on her intense physical transformation for an upcoming boxing biopic.
I mean, we're talking Vanity Fair articles, social media posts, even real estate news.
Oh yeah, buckle up, we're going deep.
Yeah.
Now, before we jump in, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like someone was maybe too perfect, too polished? Like maybe there was more going on beneath the surface. That's the vibe I get with Sydney Sweeney.
It's a valid point.
Yeah.
There's a certain calculated precision to her image, and that can make people suspicious. But then again, maybe that's just what it takes to succeed in Hollywood.
Right.
You know? We're talking about an industry built on image and perception.
Yeah, right. But where's the line between savvy self-promotion and straight-up manipulation? Let's start with the incident that really put her on the map, at least in terms of controversy.
Yeah.
Her mom's 60th birthday party.
Yeah.
You know, the one with the Make 60 Great Again hats?
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
The photos that sparked 1,000 think pieces.
Right.
It's interesting how that incident really highlights the double-edged sword of social media. You know, on one hand, it gives celebrities a direct line to their fans. On the other hand, it can turn a seemingly innocent event into a PR nightmare in a matter of minutes.
It was like wildfire, right? Sweeney even said so herself.
Oh, yeah.
But what I find particularly interesting is that her initial response, calling it an innocent celebration and asking people to stop making assumptions, only seemed to fuel the backlash.
Yeah, it speaks to the power of optics, doesn't it? In today's hyperpolarized climate, even the slightest hint of association with a certain ideology can be incredibly damaging. And let's not forget the DJ who accused guests of racist behavior due to the hats and Blue Lives Matter shirts, The whole situation became a lightning rod for controversy.
Yeah, and then to make things even more complex, she later clarified that the people wearing those hats weren't even family.
Oh, wow.
So where does that leave us?
It raises some tough questions, right? Should celebrities be held accountable for the actions of everyone in their orbit? And how much control do they really have over the narrative that surrounds them, especially in the age of social media?
It's a slippery slope. But while we're on the topic of control, let's talk about Sydney's finances.
Okay.
This is a woman who's been snapping up multi-million-dollar properties like they're going out of style. A $13.5 million oceanfront home in Florida. A $6.2 million mansion in Bel Air. She's clearly not hurting for cash.
And she's very vocal about her financial independence. Remember that quote where she said, "I have accomplished and bought everything myself, and I provide for myself and my family"? There's a sense of pride there, almost a defiance.
Definitely. And when people assumed her fiancé was bankrolling her lifestyle, she clapped back hard, emphasizing their teamwork approach. It's like she's determined to prove that she's earned her success on her own merits.
Which is interesting because it ties into her comments about fake feminism. In Hollywood, she's spoken out about how successful women often tear down younger women instead of supporting them, almost like they see them as a threat.
It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, especially in Hollywood, but her comments sparked a debate, didn't they? Some people saw it as a valid critique of the competitive nature of the industry, while others accused her of playing the victim.
Yeah, it's a complex issue, and her take on it certainly got people talking. But if we connect this back to the idea of a visionary versus a con artist, it makes you wonder if she's strategically using these controversies to build her brand. Is it calculated, or is she just speaking her truth?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And to answer it, we need to dig a little deeper into her actions and her motives. Okay, so we've got this image of Sydney Sweeney as like this fiercely independent woman, right? Building her empire brick by brick. But then there's this other side to her. The one that like embraces her sensuality and isn't afraid to push boundaries.
You're talking about the sorry for having great teas sweatshirt.
Exactly. I mean, what was that about? Was it a playful jab at her critics, a bold statement of self-acceptance, or, a calculated move to grab a headline?
Definitely got people talking, didn't it? And that's what's so intriguing about Sydney Sweeney. She understands the power of provocation. Whether it's a controversial sweatshirt or those steamy sex scenes in shows like Euphoria, she knows how to generate buzz.
And she's said that she finds empowerment in like owning her body and her sexuality. But some critics argue that it plays right into the male gaze and ultimately perpetuates the objectification of women.
Yeah, it's a valid concern, and it raises the question of whether it's possible for women to reclaim their sexuality in a way that doesn't ultimately benefit the patriarchy.
Right.
Is she using her platform to challenge societal norms or simply reinforcing them?
It's a tough one to answer, but let's shift gears for a moment and talk about her upcoming role as Christy Martin in the biopic.
Okay.
It's a pretty dramatic departure from her usual roles, right?
Absolutely. Christy Martin was a groundbreaking boxer who faced incredible adversity both in the ring and in her personal life. For Sweeney to take on this role, to physically transform herself into this powerful athlete, it suggests a desire to be taken seriously as an actress.
And she's spoken about immersing herself in training, really wanting to do justice to Martin's legacy. It's a far cry from the glamorous, often hypersexualized roles she's known for.
It's almost as if she's trying to break free from the image that Hollywood has created for her. And that brings us back to the question of control. Is she the architect of her own destiny, or is she simply playing the hand she's been dealt?
It's a fascinating dilemma, and I think it's one that a lot of young actresses face in Hollywood.
Yeah.
There's this pressure to conform to certain expectations, to fit into these predefined boxes.
Yeah, and the stakes are high if you play the game too well. You risk being labeled as a sellout. But if you rebel too much, you might find yourself blacklisted.
It's a tightrope walk, and Sydney Sweeney seems to be navigating it with a mix of boldness and calculation. But then there's this other layer to consider: her entrepreneurial ventures. She's not just an actress, she's a businesswoman.
You're talking about her production company, 50/50 Films. It's a savvy move, creating her own opportunities and taking control of her own narrative.
Exactly. She's not just waiting for roles to come her way. She's actively shaping her career. And according to some reports, she's amassed a net worth of $40 million. That's not just talent, that's business acumen.
It's a testament to her ambition and her drive, She's not content to just be a pretty face. She wants to build an empire.
Which begs the question, is this all part of a master plan? Is she strategically leveraging her image, her sexuality, even those controversies, to build her brand and secure her financial future?
It's hard to say for sure, but there's definitely a pattern of shrewd decision-making here. Look at the way she and Glenn Powell leaned into those dating rumors while promoting anyone.
Yeah.
But it generated a ton of free publicity for the film, which ultimately translated into box office success.
Clever marketing or cynical manipulation of the media?
Perhaps a bit of both, but let's not forget that she's also spoken out about the downsides of fame. She's talked about feeling like she can't control the narrative, how she's constantly being judged and scrutinized.
Right, and she's even joked about learning to say no to personal questions to avoid being labeled a butchhead.
Right.
It's like she's caught in this catch-22. She needs to maintain a certain level of public interest to stay relevant, but that same attention can be incredibly invasive and destructive.
It's the paradox of modern celebrity, isn't it? You crave the spotlight, but the spotlight can burn.
And it seems like Sydney Sweeney is still figuring out how to handle that heat.
It's a journey, and we're all watching it unfold in real time.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We've talked about the controversy, the ambition, the calculated moves, and the vulnerability. But I think there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to examine: her relationship with the media and the image she projects to the world.
Yeah, it's like she's mastered the art of the carefully curated persona.
Right.
Think about that Instagram post from her Florida mansion. The one with the tiny bikini. Some people loved it, praising her confidence, while others accused her of attention-seeking.
Yeah, it sparked a fascinating conversation, didn't it? About body image, the pressures women face to look a certain way, and the blurred lines between empowerment and exploitation.
And remember when Chloe Fineman, the SNL cast member, revealed that she was the one who pitched that Hooters sketch with Sydney?
Right.
She called Sydney's appeal perverted, but in an admiring way.
Right. It's like even other celebrities are fascinated by this image she's created.
Yeah, it speaks to the power of her persona.
Right.
It's intriguing, it's provocative, and it keeps people guessing, but it also makes it difficult to separate the real Sydney Sweeney from the carefully constructed image.
And that's the heart of the grifter or gifted question, isn't it? Is she genuinely using her platform to challenge societal norms and create opportunities for herself? Or is it all just a calculated act to achieve fame and fortune?
It's a question that's impossible to answer definitively.
Right.
And maybe that's the point. Maybe the ambiguity is part of her allure.
It's like she's constantly playing with our expectations.
Oh, no.
You know, keeping us on our toes. One minute she's posing in a bikini, the next she's bulking up for a boxing movie. Is she a master manipulator or just a young woman figuring things out in the public eye?
Perhaps it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
And perhaps that duality is what makes her so compelling.
Right.
She embodies the complexities of modern celebrity, where authenticity and image are constantly colliding.
It's like she's holding up a mirror to our own fascination with fame, fortune, and the pursuit of success. We're drawn to her ambition, her confidence, her willingness to push boundaries, but we're also suspicious of her motives, her carefully crafted persona, and the possibility that it's all just a facade.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we all have multiple facets to our personalities. The line between genuine and calculated can be blurry, and sometimes even we don't know our true motivations.
So after all this, where do you land on Sydney Sweeney? Is she a visionary or a con artist?
I think she's a fascinating blend of both, She's ambitious, she's savvy, and she knows how to play the game, but there's also a vulnerability there, a sense that she's still figuring things out just like the rest of us.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, and maybe that's the most important takeaway from all of this. It's not about putting people in neat little boxes, It's about recognizing the complexity of human nature and understanding that even the most successful, the most glamorous, the most controversial figures are still just people trying to make their way in the world.
And sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones that defy easy categorization.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, the next time you find yourself judging someone else's choices, take a moment to consider the complexities of their story. You might be surprised by what you discover.